Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Advanced Wars by Web replay commentary. This is another match against a great friend of mine, so not a league match, so I guess you could say no stakes here. Fog of War per normal, and as you can see the CEO matchup is one we've already seen. I'm playing Jess. We've already been over her. Simply put, ground vehicles are a little stronger, everything else is a little weaker. Her power and superpower give her 1 and 2 movement on her ground vehicles respectively, and her power and superpower increase her firepower on them as well as resupplying all units on the field for her. And Grimm has 30% firepower, but 20% less defense, so his units are pretty weak when they get attacked. However, when they do get a first strike, they deal a ton of damage. His power and superpower increase firepower, going from 30 to 50%, and then from 50 to 80% before any type of power boost applies. So it goes pretty high. This match is basically just going to showcase infantry plays early game and going over different opening styles. Not saying any of them is entirely wrong or bad, but I will be going over what I feel could be potentially optimized to make it better. Let's go ahead and get started. So we've got my Grimm player up first, building infantry per normal, and it's going to be building infantry for the first few turns, although we will see that we go for some slightly different properties with the infantry that are being built. With the one that I had, I went straight over to the base to try and deploy more units. He's foregoing the base currently, which means that I will get the base a little bit quicker. I still go for the same other properties though, because I had that extra infantry, so that does give me a bit of an advantage in the capture game overall. But the earlier you get the base, the better, even if it is just a turn or two earlier. And then he goes for recon pretty early, whereas here on my end I do finish capping the base. I move towards other property as well, and I go for double infantry for my plays for turn 3. On turn 4 he moves down the recon, and then he goes and captures the base, builds some more infantry, moves out for more properties, and builds a second recon. Now with Fog of War, like I said, you want to do a strong and weak side is what I've learned, and so far it's kind of splitting between the middle. Obviously there's a bit more infantry presence over here than over here, but still, if you're going to go to recon, usually you want to have them be kind of close together in most cases from what I've seen, because obviously recons need vision to attack, so it's usually better if you have one that's kind of closer, that gives you some vision, you can move in with the other one, attack, and then that gives you more vision on the area to move in with your other one, potentially, or know if you need to hang back. Either way, still okay, I think, overall. Again, just moving out to properties per normal. I also build a recon myself. I also build an infantry on my other bases, so I do now have a recon to match his on this side. I'll continue moving through, capturing properties, and then moves out the recon pretty far for both of them, puts it in the forest, you want to hide it, and I think this is a pretty weird play. Rather than moving the infantry out, he moves it up towards the airport, and as you can see, the base, this infantry just capture the base. It can go 1, 2, 3 and start capturing the airport. You could also say, yes, you can have the infantry go and get this property as well and move towards that, but the thing is that the infantry moving up from here, and because of the mountain, and the infantry moving over here, it's going to get the airport in the same amount of time, whereas you can be here closer, because it seems like he might be maybe wanting to do this as his strong side, maybe. So if that's the case and this is where he wants his strong side to be, then you probably want to have the infantry there to help back it up rather than backing it away. Then he goes for another recon, which really gives you the tell that this is going to be his strong side, as now he's going to have 2 recons, although one of them is a little bit behind the other. I'm continuing moving on, capturing out properties, move out with my recon as well, so I can get it in range, because I intend to try and interrupt some potential caps with this. Also, my recons are going to deal a ton of damage to his infantry because of how weak his infantry are overall. I'm moving out now, and I go for tank, infantry. I expect him to have a recon, because Grimm recons are pretty good overall as well. They have a lot of firepower, meaning they can heavily interrupt caps, and even potentially get do really well against other recons if they get a first strike. So I want to bring in a tank as early as I can. Yeah, he continues moving down. I can keep in the forest if possible to make it to where, they're hidden, which is always good. Goes to capture the airport to get that, and then he builds a tank and infantry, and then he actually base skips. And this is where the triple recon makes me think this might have been a bad play, or at least not a great one. Because in order to not base skip, he'd have to go triple infantry. But if he didn't build the recon earlier, he could have already built an infantry from the base where he built the recon, built the infantry from this base here, and still built the tank. So he still would have been able to get the firepower of the tank up already, but have a bit more velocity while having more infantry. Either way, I'm going to do the same thing moving into the forest. Actually, we're in the same forest right now. I continue to move out and do some more captures on my end, so I'm getting a little bit ahead, although he is doing another capture over here to help tie it up. Initiating a couple over here on my end, and I move out to make sure, there's nothing going on over here from what I can see. He is moving his recon over, but I don't see that yet, so I don't prepare a response yet. But I move out with my other infantry, and then I go tank, infantry, per normal. I intend to make this my strong side. I feel like because this base has an easier access over here, it'll probably be better, as opposed to then trying to work around the pipe and then come up here. If there's an access here, then I could have decided differently. But because it's closed off here, I decided this might be the way I want to do it. So we continue on. He does get the airport tying us up in income, and he's going to be initiating some captures. He decides not to go for this right away, opting to be able to try and cap and then cap, which isn't a bad play. I mean, he's setting himself up. He does get this city going on capture now, although not initiating really anything else. Moves out with the tank to kind of start getting that into range, and he still can't see anything with his recon that he's got over here, so I just have no clue what to expect. Or he'll have no clue what to expect, really, at this point. Just so far the placements have been pretty funny. We're nothing seeing anything yet. Then he builds tank, infantry, and passes over to me. So he builds it in the middle, I'm presuming, so that way he can kind of decide where he wants it to go. Like I said, I feel like this base lends itself more to being more likely to press over here rather than this way. That's besides the point. I mean, it is what it is. I move into the forest, so if he was watching that play, he'd see where my recon is and he would know. I can see he's getting ready to start capturing the comm tower. Pretty much trying to declare this is his comm tower, which means that I guess I have to declare this is mine, you could say. But I do initiate multiple captures on my end, so that way I can try and, propel myself. As you can see, he only is initiating one capture, and he'll be able to start up a few more. But I do have an income lead now, which is going to be very good. I need to have the income lead as much as I can, as he was able to move first. I build a transport copter, infantry, move out, infantry, and you're going to see that I build another infantry out of this base. I build a transport copter because I think it's going to be pretty good to try and help secure some properties over here. I can already see that he's moving a little bit into this area, and that he may have a transport of his own, and I'm not as far, and I'd like to try and get further in to get him, again, more of an income advantage. So we move over to his turn, and he starts capping the comm tower, capping the property here, finishing the capture there, and capping with these infantry here. So he's setting himself up to propel to 15,000 by next turn, which is pretty good. I'm only going to be going up to 16 on my next turn, so he will be slowly catching up. I move the recon into the forest, so that way he can see what's going on, and he sees a few infantry, nothing else. So that causes him to move this recon over here, making him think, okay, I can check more of the center, see if he's got anything that this one couldn't see, and because there's only infantry here, this should be reasonably safe to put. Not a bad idea. Moves very close into my territory and sees that I have 2 tanks, so this pretty much is an indicator for him what my strong side is. He moves this tank down over here and brings this one along as well. Excuse me. Then he goes battlecopter, infantry. Pretty good play, making use of all of his money and all of his buildable areas. Battlecopters are going to be pretty decent overall. Granted, there's not like any rivers or mountains for them to dart in between, but just air units are pretty good. So I move up and I see the recons. I immediately go, move in, strike, and then I can actually finish it off with the infantry rather than having to use my tank, which is nice. Which also means I can try and position this tank in a better spot moving forward. So I start moving up, and I start capping the comm tower, because I'm like, yeah, if he's going to start capping his, I should probably get mine as well, to make sure I can take advantage of his weaker defenses. And I use the good old Advanced Wars by Web trick of dropping off the infantry, and I build another one here so I can load it up next turn and continue to move out. I move up and I strike here, and then I immediately see he's got a tank, which is not good, because that tank is probably almost guaranteed to kill my recon. So that prompts me to move my tank in range, and actually both of them are going to be in range to fire on his, which will be very beneficial. I continue out with my infantry, and then you'll see I also go for a battle copter, and I go for infantry. So I go for the exact same build he does, funnily enough. So he continues, he moves his recon up to interrupt my capture over here, and he starts moving the other one over so that way he can fully interrupt it. Basically, that's him wanting me to not have the comm tower. Takes out my recon, which is sad. Caps on the building and moves out. Starts capping in the center as well. I'm starting out a little bit. He moves another tank in so that way he can reinforce. Finishes up the other captures. Like I said, pulling him up to 15. I'm only capping one property, putting me at 17 after I do capture it. So I'm not super far ahead in the capture game, sadly. You want to be as ahead as you can, but it's kind of hard to always be ahead if your opponent has some type of semblance of skill. Goes for another battle copter, infantry. So repeating the exact same build order that he did last turn. Not a super bad play, but once I see he has a battle copter, I can prepare an anti-air, or if you're very good, you just build your anti-air a little early, so that way you can meet the battle copters when they come. So I join cap on the tower to try and take it, and I continue moving up with my infantry. So I've just got a group of infantry and really nothing else. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's just one recon, I'll be fine. And I move up here and I can't see this other one, so it's very well placed. Move my battle copter up, finish capping there, putting me at 18 now, which is good. Starting up some more captures as well. I move my tank over here. Sadly, I don't have a way to spot the tank and then use both of them, which means I have to just only settle for a first strike and nothing else. Continue to move though with my infantry, and then you'll see tank, anti-air, tank, making use of almost all my money and all my bases. I go for the anti-air now because I'm assuming if I'm building a battle copter, he's probably got at least one out, so I do want to try and be ready. This tank is going to, of course, meant to take away the recons, and then obviously reinforcing my strong side here. I'm going to build the anti-air in the center just because I don't know where his battle copters could be going, so I'd rather have it in the center and kind of dictate where it goes from there. Move on to his turn 10. He takes another shot at me, and then he uses other recon to finish it. So that's pretty much just entirely denying me the comm tower. Basically, that's him saying, I don't want you to get a firepower boost at all. And yeah, that's not a bad thing to be telling me. Takes a shot at my infantry. Although he still doesn't have his yet, but you're going to see what he does to remedy that. But first he moves in his tank, fires, does a heavy blow, and finishes it with his other tank. He pulls that 3 hit point infantry back and starts capping on it with a fresh one. So if I want to interrupt the cap, I have to basically take another first strike. Moves in his battle copters, and he's going to be able to do pretty good against me with them if things go well on his end. He moves out with his infantry. He's got a conga line going, but then he moves it over here. Not sure why. Probably would have continued to straight down. And then he goes battle copter, infantry again. So he was very much committing to trying to develop an air force, which there's nothing wrong with building up an air force as long as you're able to ensure you don't get demolished. I do finish up some caps, and then I'm actually going to be doing another one over here. That's going to put me at 21,000, which is very nice. That is quite a bit more than what he's got. Currently, he'll only have 16. However, he's doing 3 captures on his end to put him up to 19. So it's not going to be a big difference for long, but a difference is still a difference. I try and take out the tank, but because I'm Jess, I don't get it. Initiate some more captures, though. And rather than capping here, I decide to fire because he's got lower defense, might as well. And I don't finish it off with my 3 hit point infantry, which is a little disappointing. I move this infantry up just so I can try and capture this property. And just get some extra movement on my guys, basically. Move into the forest and bring up the tank. I put it there specifically to keep it out of vision range, so that way he doesn't know that it's coming, so I can hopefully still get a surprise attack. And I move the battlecopter up here as well in a similar fashion to ensure that he can't see that I have it, so that way he can't prepare an anti-air because he sees it, rather he has to get attacked by it. So this will basically help try and shut away the recon aggression and hopefully let me get my comm tower. I finish moving out with my infantry on my end and my tank and my anti-air. Then I go tank, tank, infantry. And I build the other tank here because I figure he's probably going to be developing something and I'm going to need to respond. I go for tank here again in the middle to try and help let it move around. So he pulls the tank back to get some healing, moves in with the battlecopter, and first strikes my tank, bringing it down very low, which is very sad. He gets the comm tower as well, so he's able to finish off my tank, and he's going to finish up some caps as well and initiate a few more. He's going to be initiating quite a few, actually. He moves onto the property to get some extra defense, which is nice, and moves his recon up to take more damage, or deal more damage, excuse me. He pulls back to heal a little bit, and he moves his battlecopter over to basically help shut away what I'm doing, because he does see I have a transport. Grouping up the infantry towards the middle, and pulling back a bit more with his weakened ones. Initiating, let's see here, that's what, 1, 2, 3 captures to bring him up to 22, which is pretty much what I'm at. I'm only going up to 22 with 1 capture here. So we're going to be tied by the time his next turn's over in terms of our income. It goes from medium tank, he techs up to that, builds 2 infantry to go along with it, so he's now teched up to have the medium tank. I immediately go for my turbocharge to get the extra firepower and mobility. I move up to get vision, and then I move in my tank, and I destroy the full hit point tank. I then basically just kind of block in the recon from being able to do much else, and I start up the cap on that city, as well as the 2 up here. I load up into the transport copter, and I put him into the forest. I see he's got an infantry right there, though, so he is further along than I would have liked. I move my infantry up to get vision on what's going on, take a shot at it, and I do take a shot at his battlecopter to bring it down. Even though it's terrible on my infantry, it's mostly so that way I can try and destroy his battlecopter. And I think if I got a little lucky I could have, but I didn't quite get the luck I needed. Again, bring up the anti-air. It's still sort of in the center because he's got 1, he might have more, and he's actually moving this one at least over here. So I do want it kind of in the center to be able to handle things. I continue moving out with the units that I've built. I like the tank and the infantry. Move out with my 2 tanks here. And then I go battlecopter, tank, tank, infantry. So I have not yet teched up, and I definitely should be. I'm making 22,000, so that means that even with some repair costs in mind, I should be able to comfortably get to a medium tank, but I don't do it. So he finishes up the captures, and now he's at 22. So he's tied up with me for income, exactly. And I do have 3 other captures going along the way. So that means that if he doesn't interrupt him, I go up to 25. If he does, I'm at 24, depending on how he interrupts. But now he shows his battlecopter, so he brings that in. And he kills the 3 hit point infantry, interrupts the capture over here, like I kind of figured he would. Takes out that infantry, stays on the comm tower for the extra defense to put him up at plus 10. Moves the tank over, which was a really bad engagement for him to take that. Because I get extra firepower and defense on my infantry. Even though I don't have the comm tower support, they're basically 100 to 110, so there's not much of a reason to do that with a 2-hit point tank. But moves in and he still attacks, and he's just wearing his own tanks down a bit. He starts moving down with his medium tank as well, and he's starting to reinforce pretty heavily. He starts marching towards the middle. Basically, I'm assuming if he wants to take the middle, that will give him an income lead if I don't have anything else, but as we are going to see, I'm going to be having quite a bit more. So he goes for another medium tank, infantry, making good use of his money. Still building from all bases at this point, and having the 2 medium tanks. So I need a medium tank basically to respond to what he's got, but I finished the captures to 24, and I'm actually able to start capturing on these properties here, which basically is saying that now that I have like this one, and because I'm starting a capture on this one, this is going to start turning like a heavy imbalance of income into my favor, as I am basically having a property that he's supposed to have. Now I don't know if he's supposed to have this one or this one, but definitely like this one should be his, and I'm taking it. So I move up, kill the recon, kill the infantry, and I basically just move this down to block to make him have to kill a unit in order to get to the comm tower, because I know he wants to try and capture that. And basically what he's been doing is that this whole area has been devoted to capturing some properties, stop me from getting my comm tower. That's pretty much all that he's done over here. But he sent a lot to do it. He sent 2 recons, a battlecopter, and plenty of infantry to just try to, hey, no comm tower for you. And that's fine. I mean, he already has weaker defenses, so me not having the comm tower now is okay-ish. And it doesn't, like, a lot of the engagements wouldn't have really been decided much by a 10% increase in firepower. But I do take the shot on his tank. I get trapped, sadly. I move my battlecopter over and basically block it off, saying, hey, if you've got an anti-air, you're going to have to take a shot at some infantry in order to get to my copter. So shielding it pretty well. I really don't need to commit as much as I am over here. I'm committing a lot more to this side than I am over here now, so I've kind of split up to like 2 half-assed fronts, admittedly. But with the way the game's going, I think that's okay. I move up the tank, and I move up the battlecopter too, because I'm kind of expecting a lot of stuff to be coming from here, when it's really not. But I do move out with the tanks that I've built as well. And I start bringing down the transport copter so I can ferry a few more infantry, so I build naturally an infantry there, battlecopter, tank, infantry. And this is when I decide, yeah, I'm going to save up some money now, so I can start building some big stuff. Still haven't teched up to a medium tank yet, mind you. So he moves in, and he starts killing my infantry. He takes down the capture there, starts capping on that city, which should be mine, admittedly. He does kill off that infantry, which is weird that he did it with this. I think it would have been better to use the copter to do it, and then actually start capping my comm tower to force me to try and do something about it. But instead he just goes for the double kill there. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not great. I still have vision on his battlecopter, which is going to be great. He moves in his to fire on my infantry, and he does take quite a few decent engagements on me. Destroying quite a few of my units, so he's going to have a higher unit count than me by the time this turn is over. Especially because he's going to be building as well. Continues to move down, and he's really just overtaking the center as well in terms of the properties, but I still have an income lead because I am getting properties that are supposed to be his. And then he goes for Neotank and passes. So he doesn't even build anything, he just builds 1 Neotank and passes. And I think, while that's okay, I'm not sure if this is necessarily the best place for the Neotank. He doesn't see anything over here aside from some infantry, and he knows that I have 1 tank. A battlecopter pretty much shuts down a tank, especially if you've got enough infantry to chip away more at it. So why the Neotank is here and not over here, I don't know. Move to my turn. I move up and immediately just kill the battlecopter. Might as well. I'm able to interrupt the capture over here and step onto a property to finish off some more infantry. I pull back over here to fire on the battlecopter and get a really good shot. I finish up 3 captures, putting it at 27. So now the income disparity is 5,000. And yes, he's capping 2 properties to bring himself up to 24, but that still is going to be quite a heavy difference. Like, yeah, I don't have a comm tower, but I have a lot more property and a lot more income. And usually income wins games. So I join up the infantry here. Not for any extra money, it only gives me 1 extra 100, but when I want it to be healthy, there's no reason to have that one just kind of chilling there. And I finish off the battlecopter with my tank. I don't see his medium tank though, so this medium tank will get to do something. We'll see. I move up with my battlecopter, and I start moving my tank up as well. I probably could have started sending it to this way, but either way, I totally miscalculate here, by the way. I thought that, oh yes, this infantry will be able to reach in here and drop off, but I counted 3 and not 4, so that was a misplay there. Move the battlecopter towards the center, and I build a bomber, and then I just build a triple infantry to go with my bomber. So that way, basically, I'm figuring he's probably going to have some type of unit, like a medium tank, or maybe even a neo tank, so I am going to need to do something about it, and I do go for the bomber as my play. It's a pretty good counter on most things. So he starts by moving to the tank to fire there. Then he fires with an infantry, and then he pops the superpower. So he probably didn't realize that it was ready. and that was honestly pretty bad. I'm pretty sure a super powered up Grimm medium tank one shots my tank on the city, and in fact we're going to check this right now. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he does it pretty handily. Anyways, he does continue, and he's going to deal quite a good blow to some things, although there's not many engagements really happening, so I don't think the Haymaker really did a whole lot. Actually, he only took one other engagement. So him fully destroying the tank would have been nice, but that was honestly not a good Haymaker because he just doesn't have the engagements to take. And then he builds another Neo tank and passes. So as we can see here, his unit composition is 19 infantry, 2 medium tanks, 2 Neo tanks. So even with 80% extra firepower firing on other vehicles that I have, their infantry is not going to be doing a whole lot. If you look at my composition, it's still quite a lot of infantry, 14, but I've got 7 tanks, 3 battlecopters, and anti-air as well, that are all in the fray, that are all able to do stuff. So I'm just taking, I think, more advantage of overall my power. So start firing, kill off the infantry. I'm not even afraid of the medium tank, honestly. I move and I interrupt the capture almost entirely with the infantry to finish it, and I just start slowly picking off his infantry, and then I decide to go for the turbocharge, and I move the tank back to get some healing. I did this because I wanted to try and get a better favorable roll on the battlecopter strike to his medium tank. I still only bring it to 8. I could have potentially brought it to 7, and that's what I was going for, but I didn't get it. And if I had brought it to 7, I also could have attacked better with my tank, but because of that, I just didn't want to risk it. So yeah, I pretty much just start easily handling and demolishing, and now that I see that he's kind of like shifted a bit to the center, I start moving my units down to get into the center as well. And then I drop off the infantry. No, yes I do. So that way I can start capturing over here and start capping my comm tower, so I'm going to be getting that pretty soon. I move the tank up to the center, and then I move this battlecopter over to fire on his medium tank that he has. Move out the bomber as well. I've got quite a bit of money, so I build a Neo tank, infantry, because since I do know he has a medium tank, my Neo tanks are going to deal a ton of damage to his medium and Neo tanks. He just take a shot, and I only take 1 hit point from the crackback and taking 2 off my battlecopter, so that's okay. He finishes up on a kill here. And then he moves his medium tank in to fire and doesn't actually kill my infantry. He needs something else to do it. And as you can see, he just doesn't have a whole lot of vision. He's got infantry which have 2, medium tanks which have 1, Neo tanks which have 1, and then of course stuff on his properties. So he doesn't even really see what's going on. He just knows that there is stuff going on, basically. He moves over and tries to start to cap one of my properties, which is a pretty silly thing to try and think he can get away with. Continues moving down with everything, and as you can see, the match is really tilted in my favor at this point. I've got the income lead and I've got the value lead too. Moves in with his Neo tanks, goes in for another Neo tank and double infantry. The thing is that he just doesn't really have the unit bulk to do much with. Like if he had multiple tanks, for example, then he'd be able to start firing on other things, taking advantage of his higher firepower, but he just doesn't have that. So here we'll see I move down and I just interrupt the capture, get rid of it, and then I finally start capping my comm tower. So it's day 15, and now I'm starting to get my comm tower. I move with the infantry to just pluck them down. I move up with my regular tank to kind of see what's going on and see if there's anything around the HQ, because I'm thinking maybe an HQ cap could be a way to try and end this, as I just don't really know exactly what he's got, but I am able to take down a lot of his infantry and his eyes. I bring his medium tank down to 7, which is good, and I just continue to do some more engagements against his infantry, pulling back to properties to heal and things like that. I think that... oh no, the tank attacked, that's what it was. But I completely interrupt his capture there, kill the infantry there. I even fire with my tank on his medium tank because it's out on the road. And yeah, I take a pretty heavy crackback, but dealing 2 damage was nice. I see an infantry here, move in. I see his Neo tank, start moving my bomber up to deal just with the Neo tank entirely. Then I go for a bomber, another bomber, and then of course infantry. So it's day 16 on his end, and yeah, the difference in value is pretty heavy. The difference in unit number is pretty heavy, and then the difference in income lead is heavy. He moves in and he attacks with his neo tank, so he does pretty good damage onto my battlecopter, but his medium tanks just aren't really doing a whole lot. And even though he's got a ton of stuff like down here, he'll be able to shut away all of my infantry with his neo tanks. That's only if they're able to see him. So if I'm still like picking off and killing his infantry, what's he gonna do? He starts moving in a lot more to start pressuring here. But the thing is that I'm assuming because he doesn't have much here, he's thinking I'm not gonna have much here. But this is pretty much the area right here that I focused most of my attention to. He moves out more with his infantry. He does kill with his medium tank, which is alright. He does get some more vision on what's going on. Then he goes neo tank, infantry, infantry. We move on to my day 16 now, and I do cap the comm tower. So now all of my infantry and non-ground vehicles have regular firepower, and all of my ground vehicles have 120%. And I'm able to finish up the capture as well, putting them at 28. And I'm able to just destroy the neo tank right there. I move this infantry over here to heal it, because it still is going to take the same amount of time to capture this property if I moved full, as if I just moved to one space here, because I was at 9 hit points, so I might as well make myself higher. And then I move over here again to just try and see if he has anything that might be coming, to see if it is going to be safe to attempt an HQ capture, and I think it is. I continue firing. I kill off the medium tank over here, and his infantry, like I said, pretty much just taking away his eyes, so that way he can't see. I start moving towards the middle as well to take properties. I fire on the infantry here, and I'm able to pretty easily dispatch of all of them. I can also kill off the infantry capping here, and I still have plenty more that are moving in to take their place, with ones that I have already lost. I do move the transport copter all the way up here, and I don't unload, because like I said, I intend to just dump him off and start capping the HQ. And I figure he's going to see that I have a bomber, so what am I going to do? Build a fighter and an anti-air, along with 2 infantry, and then I move over here to destroy the infantry here. Basically, my plan with this was that if he's going to build any type of response to this, whether it's a fighter of his own, I want to be able just to first strike it. Move to the next turn, and as you can see, I have over double his value, I have triple his units, and honestly, he can't see anything. So what does he do? Resigns, which I think is fair in this case. Even if he can't see the difference in what's been going on from my board state to his board state, he just doesn't see anything. And it's not safe to assume that I have the same type of vision that he's having, because he knows I've just been completely demolishing. Like, I have essentially center control. I have multiple properties that he should have, and he doesn't. There's also property that has not been captured at all. Granted, this one should be mine, so I should be basically, I guess you could say 29,000. But there's properties that he should have that he doesn't have. Basically, I think probably one of the biggest things is that he kind of committed a lot over here to prevent me from getting the comm tower, but didn't back it up initially. Like, he didn't start capping with his own infantry. He didn't have a bunch here to start capping on it to prevent me from taking it or making it to where he has it, so that way he's got 50% firepower. Because, I mean, that starts to get pretty insane. Like, if he would normally deal with just 50% damage, so a little less than most mirror matchups, he'd now do 75%, which is a totally different type of engagement. Also, the early game triple recon really didn't pay off at all, because one of them kind of moved around a bit, and yeah, it totally prevented me from having the comm tower until late in the game. Most of the engagements were perfectly fine without 10% firepower, and then when I did get it, I pushed quite a bit as well. But yeah, thank y'all for watching for sure. I hope y'all enjoyed. Definitely give me any food for thought based off this match, whether what Grimm could have done differently, what me playing Jess could have done differently as well. Definitely appreciate any and all opinions for sure. But y'all just stay safe, and y'all take care.